took from the great German philosopher Hegel. Actually, the word comes from ancient Greek philosophy, and Marx had studied that as well. And in ancient Greece, it meant above all the idea that truth emerges from discussion, from debate, from discourse. That's how you arrived at the truth, by looking at different propositions. Hegel, I need to hand these out as well. I would have done this before if I'd arrived on time, but if people could pass them round, that would be very helpful. Right. So the idea, the word comes from ancient Greece, taken over by the great German classical philosopher Hegel, who developed at the time of the French Revolution and developed his ideas in response to the French Revolution. But in Hegel, the idea was, it constructed a theory of the whole of human history as developing this way, through contradictions between ideas. Marx took this idea of development through contradictions, but then, as he puts it, stood it on its head, turned it the right way up, materialist way, and saw development of history coming through contradictions between real material and social forces. And he says, and you'll see it in the Marx on dialectics here, he says, my dialectic method is not only different from the Hegelian, but its direct opposite. To Hegel, the life process of the human brain, i.e. the process of thinking, etc., is the demiurge of the real world, and the real world is only the external phenomenal form of the idea. With me, on the contrary, the ideal is nothing else than the material world reflected by the human mind and translated into forms of thought. Right. With Hegel, it's standing on its head. It must be turned right side up again if you would discover the rational kernel within the mystical shell. Marx took the idea over from Hegel, but turned it up, inverted it, and saw the dialectic as being the struggle of opposing forces. Now, still, we need to say further what we mean by dialectics here. I say it's the idea that development occurs through contradictions. I will go further than this. I want to say that dialectics is the logic of change, especially of development, evolution, and revolution. So the dialectics is the logic of change, the logic of revolution. Now, core proposition of dialectics is, first of all, that everything is changing. Everything in the world, human beings, society, history, the universe, everything is in a process of change. You can immediately then say, of course, there's also continuities in society, the world, and nature. I think immediately, for example, sometimes in arguments with the media, bourgeois ideology and so on, you have to emphasise that not everything is new. Things have been around for a while and still are. We still live in a capitalist society. Capitalist society has existed for centuries. Oppression of women has existed for several thousand years. It hasn't been all got rid of. You know, we're not in a post-feminist society and so on. There's continuities. Continuities of a lot of things. Dialectics is a way of understanding both these two things, these two ideas. That there is fundamental change, that everything is in the process of changing, but there's also continuities. And what is the relationship between change and continuity and thinking about? This is one of the core things about dialectics. Now, I want to go back to this idea, everything is changing. Say, now nobody put up their hand, maybe just too polite, but nobody put up their hand. It's rubbish, not everything is changing. But actually, this is quite a new idea in human history, that everything is changing. It corresponds to modern scientific fact, but it's a relatively recent discovery. How was this question of the relationship of change and continuity seen in the past? First of all, of course, people have always been aware that certain things were changing. People were moving around, individuals were born and got older and died, and all sorts of things. And, you know, you had battles and wars and so on. But generally speaking, these things, these changes were seen as taking place against a fixed background. Right? For example, before Copernicus and the scientific revolution, of course people could see the sun moving or the stars moving, but the idea was they moved in fixed circles round the fixed point of the Earth. So there was change, a movement, but the Earth was the centre and it was still, and that was the fixed point. Right? Before Darwin, the idea was that yes, once upon a time there'd been creation and individual creatures